Typically, offices are being designed using desks and chairs. For instance, people use and build this kind of environments. But there's more and more information that tells that sitting too much is quite unhealthy. There's a newspaper headline saying, "A life seated doesn't last long," and sporting doesn't compensate, it says below as well. So for instance, people who sit 11 hours or more per day have a 40% higher risk of dying in the next 3 years than people who sit 4 hours or less. So as you see, the way the space is structured determines a lot whether people sit or stand. Most of you are sitting by default. But our entire society is basically like this. It's filled with chairs. And people just by default without thinking. What if we would do it differently and not punish any longer children by standing in the corner, but make a world where basically standing is supported or moving around is supported? How can officers invite a more active lifestyle? What we often do is look at the history. Actually, in all our projects, historical research is quite an important component. In this case, we looked at the history of the office, from ancient times to medieval times, Renaissance times. You see here lots of movement in this place. Then, in early 20th century, standardization started, typewriters came in, and people started being seated. And more seated. And even in the 60s and 70s there were counter movements, but still everything based around chairs. There has been a criticism on the office around that time.